Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the special meeting. This isn't on the menu. What is all this stuff? Okay, here we go. Special meeting. And if you'll join me, we'll stand for a moment of silence and salute to the flag. Thank you. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendships among united cultures.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Mayor Crawford,
Here.
Councilor Eby,
Here.
Councilor Letterman,
Here.
Councilor Hooker,
Here.
Councilor Jackson,
Here.
Councilor Salas is absent, Councilor Corey is absent. Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right. Thank you very much. Item number 1, discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2025-38, an election resolution for the municipal officers election to be held on March the 3rd, 2026.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the resolution declaring the positions that will be on the ballot for the municipal officers election in next March. The mayor position, 4-year term to be elected at large, and then 3 council positions, 4-year terms to be elected at large.
And
And yes, the general obligation bond of $3 million to vote either for or against.
okay. Any questions?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-38, an election resolution for the municipal officers elections to be held on March 3rd, 2026.
Second.
All right. Any final discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Hooker,
Aye.
Councilor Letterman,
Aye.
Councilor Eby,
Aye.
Councilor Jackson.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Good people. Item number 2, discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2025-37, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2026 budget quarter ending September 30th, 2025, for certain funds and application to the Local Government Division, LGD, of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, DFA, for approval thereof. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Councilors, in front of you is Resolution 2025-37, which is the first budget adjustment for the fiscal year 2026. This budget adjustment encompasses all budget adjustments from July through September 30th. The total increase to the budget was $71,326,861. This is usually our biggest budget adjustment because it includes all the rollovers of fiscal year 2025 purchase orders plus any projects that were opened in 25 that are still continuing into fiscal year 26. So as always, we'll concentrate on the resolution report. Feel free to stop me if you have further questions or anything, and if I can answer, I will. If not, I'll get back to you. So the first fund that had adjustments was the general fund, and the revenues increased $30,058. It was due to a fiscal year clean and beautiful grant increase of $15,832. So that was just budgeting the grant to the actual award letter. We did receive from the New Mexico Self-Insurers Fund an insurance claim on a PD vehicle at $12,496 and another PD claim at $1,480. And then we did receive restitution for trash barrel damage at $250. Transfers in increased $133,055, and it was from the internal government's grants. fund, and it was to reimburse the general fund for excess match on the McBride legislative appropriation.
Judy,
Yes?
back on the police vehicle, was that the one that was burned up in the fire?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, that's the one that the airbags went out on. It was the former retired chief's vehicle. And Chief Mentor has the information on that. We submitted that. They replaced the airbag, and then they had an additional amount for some additional work, and they paid that also.
Okay,
So it was, what it was a vehicle that hit a deer, and it didn't have, it was one of the unmarked, like, manager said, it was the former
black
chief's one. It was a white one, but it didn't have the push bar on the front of it, so
Okay.
when it hit the deer, both airbags deployed, and it caused quite a bit of damage, so.
okay, I hadn't heard about that one, okay. All right, and so they just paid to get it fixed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
On expenditures for the general fund, the fiscal year 2025 rollover included donations at $66,785. Of this amount, the police K-9 donations were $2,794. The police donations were $8,078. Fire, $12,215. Parks and Rec, $26,789. And the seniors at $16,909. We rolled over the convention center stucco project, $462,000. The convention center parking lot repavement at $300,000. And then the convention center stage at $12,930. We also received our fiscal year 2026 New Mexico Self-Insurance insurance renewal that went up to the general fund. It was $179,330. And of course, you'll see the insurance claims for the PD at $13,976. And then the Parks and Rec Clean and Beautiful grant expenditure, $15,382, and the trash barrel restitution at $250.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So what, the 26,789 for Parks and Rec, so what kind of donation goes into Parks and Rec?
Any donations that they get, I'm not sure
I
what.
don't understand. One is vinegar. Oh, okay.
Can't find the Granicus.
Okay, wow. And it's been going on for years. Okay, thank you.
Transfers out increased 3.2 million. There was a fiscal year 2025 rollover, the transfer to FEMA for the VOR match on the bridges, $1,314,332. A transfer to streets for their rollovers, $362,502. And a transfer to the General Capital Improvement Fund for rollovers at $277,150. And then the transfer to FEMA for monsoon expenditures, $1,260,669. On SGRT, revenues increased 5.2 million. There was a rollover from 2025 for the watershed base plan federal grant, $290,225. Then the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, stormwater drainage project, $350,000. Of that amount, the grant is $250,000 and the loan is $100,000. We also rolled over the Water Trust Board tanks Phase 2 project, total revenue, $1,187,944. Of that amount, there's a grant of $1,069,150 and a loan at $118,794. There's also a Water Trust Board grant loan for Country Club water line replacement, $3.4 million. Of that amount, the grant is $3,098,841, and the loan is $342,260. Expenditures went up $14,699,100. We're rolling over the watershed plan, $67,664. The storm drainage inventory, $60,578. The geomorphic survey of North Fork and Eagle Wells, $74,981. The storm drainage master plan at $350. The Cree Meadows Road drainage at $96,685. Water conservation for leak detection services, $332,280. The service line inventory, $35,000. Copper and lead testing, $11,500. Water rights, 2,218,269. The Upper Canyon diversion, 284,527. The match for Water Trust Board grant loan project for Alto Lake at 12.5. Water Trust Board grant loan match for Homestead, 125. For the Hollywood Well, 40,190. And then we had Two Rivers Raw Water Line at 910,592. The Country Club Water Line replacement was $4,655,928. The River Wells Rehab, $29. The Water Tanks Phase 1 project, $3,103,785. Water Tanks Phase 2, $1,187,944. And then, of course, when the Water Trust Board projects complete, we pay off the loan portion of the grant loan. So this year, we'll be doing the Water Trust Board repayment of the loan balance for interest at $1,000. And then we had Series 2012 SGRT bonds principal repayment at $465,000. And then the Water Trust Board principal on the Country Club water line, $546,854. And then for the water tanks, Phase 2 at $118,794. On the SURF, we're just rolling over the balances by department. That increased $318,306. Of that amount, fire balance is $210,716. The seniors are $7,681. Police, $7,100. Water protection, $1,334. Water distribution at $153. Parks, $21,289. The treatment plant, $5,278. The admin, $1,926. Convention center, $200. Airport, $5,424. Streets, $7,964. Planning and zoning, $7,524. Solid waste, $30,702. There's a contingency in the fund at $3,709. Purchasing has $37. Courts at $152. And the library at $7,117. On the fire fund, revenues increased $294,995, and that's just adjusting the budget to the actual fire marshal distribution. The expenditures increased $1,175,694, and it's a rollover from 25 for 2 Type 6 trucks at $527,904. There's a contingency of $152,795. And the match for the New Mexico Finance Authority loan for 2 big trucks at $200,000. And then, of course, the increase for the fire marshal distribution at $294,995. On the LEPF, we decreased revenues because our budget amount was over $93,500 to the actual distribution from the fund. And expenditures decreased $42,849 because of a rollover of cash of $50,651. That was the residual balance of 25's grant. And we had to reduce the distribution, so we had to reduce the expenditures at $93,500. The special libraries revenues increased $47,039 for the rollover of the state GEO bond grant balance. And in expenditures increased $72,755. The rollover of the GEO bond grant at $38,152, and repairs and maintenance to the library at $34,603. Moving on to lodger's tax. Revenues increased $3.4 million, and that was from a state aviation grant for the air service at $3 million. And a fiscal year 2026 Trails Plus grant for the Two Rivers Park at $497,970. The expenditures increased $4.1 million, and it's from the state aviation grant for the air service, $3,333,333.
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
I don't know. That's kind of weird, right? So we have a match of that $333,000. And of course, the fiscal year 2026 Trails Plus grant at $797,970. We have a match of $300,000 on that grant. Municipal gas tax increased $423,727, and that's for the rollovers of the 2024 co-op at $172,953 and the 2025 co-op at $250,774. Transfers increased because of the rollovers in order to balance the fund, and expenditures increased $927,001. It's from a rollover of safety equipment at $10,794, the hot plant, $131,246, a dump truck at $361,234, and of course, the two co-ops from New Mexico Department of Transportation at $423,727.
And Mayor and Council, we did receive the amendment to the project at Innsbrook, so we did receive that yesterday, so,
That's fine.
for another year, so.
On special recreation, we rolled over $113,311. Parks and Rec at $75,031. The watershed, $37,280, and the ice rink at $1,000. The intergovernmental grants revenues increased $3.1 million, and it's a rollover of the EDA grant for the Upper T traffic. $2,328,000. We have a legislative appropriation for recreation. The balance is $363,141. We have a legislative appropriation for the Veterans Conference Center at $445,500. And then we have a Children, Youth, and Families Department Continuum Coordinator grant at $58,000. That's the grant that we're partnering with Region 9 for. And then we have miscellaneous income to balance to cash was $10. The transferring of $300 was transfer from the general fund to close out the Links grant. And then expenditures increased $3.1 million. The rollover of the EDA Upper T grant, $2,326,555. The legislative appropriation for recreation, $363,141. The Veterans Conference Center legislative appropriation, $445,500, and the Continuum Coordinator grant at $58,000. The transfers then increased $133,055, and that was for the transfer back to the general fund for the excess on the McBride legislative appropriation. RSV revenues and expenditures increased $65,444. This is for the federal RSVP grant. The grant starts in April and goes to March, so since it crosses our fiscal year, I have to roll over the balance. On the forestry grants, both revenues and expenditures increased $1.2 million, and it's for two legislative appropriations for thinning. The one from 24 is $500,000, and the one from 25 is $750,000. We do have an NOO to begin the project on the $500,000 that's in review with DFA. On FEMA, revenues increased $23,871,845, and it's from the rollover of the sewer line state grant, $3,011,393. The bridges federal grant at $5,342,942, and the state portion for the bridges at $1,347,998. We also have the legislative appropriation for flood damage at $1.8 million. We have the South Fork Fire Federal Grant at $7,242,942, and the state portion of those projects at $1,207,157. We do have several projects that have gotten PW numbers and funds obligated, so we'll be working on a list to supply to you in our monthly report so you can see how much money we've been getting.
Mayor.
Go right
So
ahead.
seeing how you paused, I was gonna wait till you're done, but now for the layman that's reading this out there in the world because they're so interested in where the money's going and we're not wasting it. When this says right here, bridges, federal grant, 5 million, well, why aren't you fixing that means we got money, right? You can go fix that bridge.
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Hooker, yes, the funds have been committed. We have engineers that are been tasked to work on the projects. And on the bridge project there, that was for the That was for the McDaniels Bridge. It was a state grant to do a temporary replacement of the McDaniels Bridge.
Wait a minute, so we got $5 million?
We have 5 million obligated.
Obligated.
Obligated,
Doesn't
not,
mean we got it.
no.
That's right.
That, and that's how it ties to the project worksheets. And if you would go into our monthly report that's on our website, you can see that they're obligated, but then it also shows how much money we've actually received. And on the bridges, for this year, we haven't received anything because we haven't had any movement on the projects because they just decided that they're gonna stay under 1783. So now, depending on what the new damage has said and what the scope's gonna change, then that's what the engineers are working on.
In Mayor and Council on with the new obligation of the new South Fork and the salt fires, once we get project obligated, we're utilizing for design is the House Bill 1 funds that we received.
And again,
It's not House Bill 1. Didn't they move it to Senate Bill 31?
They're still working on it. They haven't.
Oh, my God, they told us that we
Yes.
had that done 2 weeks ago.
They said it's in the process of being completed, but right now we're still have the House Bill 1 until we're working on devising a plan to move it to the Senate Bill 31.
We've already moved the money.
No.
We still
They
haven't.
said we sent the money back.
No, not yet. We haven't
That's what I was told.
we haven't received that final grant agreement or how they're going to do that, so.
But we haven't received any, the work that's being done from the Village of Ruidoso that are obligated funds is still coming out of the Village of Ruidoso's pocket.
Counselor Letterman, Mayor, yes, that is true, because we're on a reimbursement basis, so what we have to do is we have to spend the money, and then we have to send all our invoices, canceled checks, contracts, procurements to the feds and DHSEM for them to go through their review so that we can get the money back.
But it's still, even though we do that, sometimes it takes 18 months to 2 years to whatever.
I've been reconciling the sewer line since last year, and they barely got it into review to FEMA last week.
So the 385,000 that we received from McDaniels to turn that into low water crossing, we never received that
We
money?
received that, but that's in a different fund.
That's Mayor.
But that's the McDaniel Bridge.
Yes.
Yeah, and
So when we're talking McDaniel Bridge, we need to be very clear because we did receive, this is where we get caught up with DHSEM and our esteemed Congresswoman, that you received this money, and yeah, we have, but not from the feds.
The Mayor and Council, the funding that we received was from Department of Finance. It was an emergency grant. That was $350 that was received towards the McDaniels Bridge.
Yeah.
Yes. And that was totally state funds, and we were already submitted all
We've
that.
already used it.
That's in a different fund.
Yep.
and I'm
And
not
it'll be
trying to
later.
open a can of worms,
No.
but the
No.
reason is because
Yeah.
these are the things that we constantly
Exactly.
get challenged on. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Thank you.
And is it all right? How much have we spent for these projects for our cleanups that we've spent that we're waiting on monies?
So we got, Counselor, Mayor, for the monsoon 2025, for our category A and B, which is the like EOC expenses and debris removal, we did get 3 million from the feds. We have some monies due from the state, but that was for the monsoon. For South Fork, we haven't received any monies.
So if I was told correctly, we're still out about $5 million,
Probably close to that.
you know,
Yeah.
that we've spent, we're waiting on.
Okay.
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor Lutterman, on the cleanup, the Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management of the state, they're the ones that have been contracting with DRC on those projects. They're paying them directly. And then any project that's managed by the county for the NRCS is being managed that way also.
Okay.
So,
So we don't ever see
Yeah.
any of that.
That goes right through the county. Okay.
So for the monsoon 2025, there's a federal grant of $3,306,000, and the state portion of that is $516,667. We did receive a New Mexico Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management reimbursement for EOC meals during the monsoon disaster of $96,746. Transfers in increased 7.2 million. That's from a 2025 rollover. A transfer from the treatment plant for the VOR match on the sewer line, $1,842,196, and a transfer from the general fund for the bridge match at $851,177. There's also a transfer from the general fund for the VOR match on the South Fork fire, $1,207,157. Transfer from the general fund for monsoon at $516,667. And the transfer from the DFA loan for the South Fork fire expenditures at $2,828,680. Expenditures increased 22 million. From the disaster 1783, which is Dolly, there's contract services for the sewer at 86,361, contract services for the bridges 202,997, and then capital outlay for the sewer at 3,679,522, and the capital outlay on the bridges 428,345. And then for the disaster 4752 on South Fork, non-cap furniture and fixtures, 569. Contractual services, 1,365,992. Professional fees, 744,558. Rental of equipment, 37,338. Projects at 9,673,214. And then for the disaster for the monsoon, 4886. Office supplies at 30,000. Non-cap furniture and fixtures, 170,200. Safety equipment, 60,000. Lab expense, 4,000. Contractual services, 2,485,580. Professional fees, 150. Repairs on the sewer system, 1,221,300. Equipment rental, 130,000. Equipment maintenance, 175,000, and vehicle maintenance, 10,000. And of course, the legislative appropriation for flood damage at 1.8 million. On the GEO bonds, expenditures increased to $3,231,915. It's for the rollover for Pine Cliff at $565,515, and a contingency available for any new projects that we might have, $2,666,400.
So it's already listed in expenditures?
Yes, I put it in there.
It's a contingency?
Just for any upcoming projects, so that's available money, so that Adam knows that if he has a project, he can see exactly really quick how much money he has to make sure that he can do the project.
Does Levi know that?
Oh, yeah, Levi.
Good.
And then on the general capital improvement fund, you'll see the increase of $350,000. That was for the DFA emergency grant for the McDaniel Bridge. The transfers in increased $277,150. It was from the general fund to balance out the fund for the rollovers, and then expenditures at $2.5 million. We rolled over the New Mexico Department of Transportation grants for Gavilan balance at $114,899. Reese at $71,781, and the White Mountain TPF funds at $1.9 million, and Horton at $120,788. And then you'll see the emergency grant for McDaniel Bridge, the expenditure at $350,000. On the other debt, which is the DFA loan, there's a transfer to the FEMA fund for South Fork obligated projects at $2,828,680. And then on the joint utility fund, revenues increased $4.5 million, and they're from a rollover for a legislative appropriation for the lift station at Meacham and Sutter, $2,078,004. A DFA emergency grant for Upper Canyon water lines at $932,000. A DFA emergency grant for sewer lines at $1.5 million. On the transfers out, they increased $31,300. Out of the money from the from the New Mexico Self-Insurance Fund, we're gonna pay for the lift station repairs at Maple and Ash. On expenditures, $4.8 million, increase. And it's from a rollover for the lift station at Meacham and Sudworth, $2,078,004. Sewer engineering for Country Club, $232,300. Rainier sewer repairs, $95,240. The New Mexico self-insurance renewal increased $11,370. And then the emergency grants for the water lines, $932,000. The emergency grant for the sewer line, $1.5 million, and the lift station repairs at Maple and Ash, $31,300. On the airport, revenues increased $1.9 million. Part of it was from the rollover taxiway B state grant of $31,771. And then we have an FAA grant for the airfield electrical upgrade. The federal portion of that project is $1,558,190, and the state portion of that project is $65,608. We had a state aviation grant for the Skidster at $100,793. We have a state aviation grant for the PER, preliminary engineering report for the terminal building at $152,000. And then we also have a state aviation grant for the lease analysis at $61,670. Expenditures for the airport increased $1.9 million. Fiscal year 25 rollovers were for donations at $4,129, and the taxiway B state grant at $31,771. The new grant for the PER for the terminal building at $152,000, the lease analysis $61,670, and then the insurance renewal at $5,150. The state aviation grant for Skidster was only $793. We had already had it in the budget that we were gonna pay, but after the budget hearings and everything, he was able to get a state grant for the cost, so I only had to increase the expenditure by $793.
That's great.
They repaired the fuel farm pump at $50,100, and the electrical airfield upgrade that's grant is $1,640,200. Affordable housing increased $272,118. It's the rollover of the MFA grant. We did receive the final distribution on that grant, so we're all caught up on all our grants. And then expenditures rolled over $943,245 for 603 Meacham. On the treatment plant revenues, they increased $5.8 million, and it's from a rollover for the legislative appropriation for the sewer line at the track, $1,066,549, and the Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan for solar panels at $4,765,510. Expenditures increased $5.8 million, the rollover of the solar panels, $4,765,510, and the sewer line at the racetrack, $1,066,549. And then the fiscal year 26 insurance renewal increased $15,630, and then the Zamora legal fees at $20,000. The transfers out at $1.8 million is just the match on the FEMA sewer line. And when that project closes, then the money will transfer.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
Judy.
Yes.
So again, when somebody hears track,
Yes.
the sewer line is because our sewer line contiguously or continuously, however you want to say it, runs from our jurisdiction down through the downs, which goes through the track, which goes to the regional wastewater treatment facility. Ergo, when you say the track, it's because that was one of the places we had to move it or we're wanting to move it.
And then plus, we just got some of the land donated somewhere on the track. That's our property, where the manhole and the line, all the work that we're doing is on our property that was donated last year.
Correct.
So what about JUB on that?
On Mayor Crawford.
Why is it the financing going through that? Because that's jointly owned there, isn't it?
Yes, and we're working, and Mayor Crawford, members of the council, that would become JUB because the interceptor line
I
belongs to the.
understand they couldn't get a grant because they
But
turned in a
we
budget.
applied for it, and we took some of the expenditures to the JUB on that part, so, yes.
Thank you.
On solid waste, revenues increased $1.2 million. It's the rollover for the grapple trucks from New Mexico Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department. And then expenditures increased $1.9 million. It's the rollover of the grapple trucks, 4 of them, at $1,212,573. And he's gonna purchase 2 trash trucks at $776,344, and then New Mexico Self-Insured's insurance renewal at $7,120. Risk management increased both revenues and expenditures by $495,590. It was the increase of the insurance renewal, $218,590, and the New Mexico Self-Insurers Fund insurance reimbursement for monsoon, $277,000. They sent us a check for insurance claims, and so as the departments are completing those insurance claims, then I'm transferring the expenses to those funds.
We never received anything for the headworks, did we?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, part of the 277 had some of the funding in that check, and we're still working on that also.
So this money was for other things on the
And
sewer
we're
line?
getting a list from Alan with the league. We wanted to get an itemized list to see exactly, because some of it was for the bathroom there at the Two Rivers Park, and we want to see exactly what received on the check.
What do you mean by headworks?
When it comes in the sewer plant, it's
okay.
got on a not a treadmill, what do you call it?
It's got a,
Conveyor belt.
Yes.
It goes up and it got damaged,
Okay.
and so it's a one-off, so we had to go through, but the insurance adjuster was fighting us over that, and that's why I was wondering if.
yes, and he ended up, did get the parts and repaired a lot of that himself with his crews,
But
and
we're
then,
still going after a new one,
yes.
and we'll save that one.
Okay.
And then
We
the
can't
last,
repair it and then expect them to pay 100%, that's what they said.
and then the final is the transfer out to RJU for the repairs at Maple and Ash. So that is the budget adjustment for quarter one. If you have any questions?
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Thanks
And
again.
who was Zamora legal fees? Which one was that?
Mayor and council, that's Gino.
Oh,
Yes.
Gino Zamora.
Yeah. And that was paid through the New Mexico Self-Insurance Fund, and that's who we reimbursed.
Make a motion.
Yep, go ahead.
I make a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-37, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2026 budget quarter ending September 30th, 2025, for certain funds and application to the local government division of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration for the approval thereof.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
If I can get a motion to move into closed session, please.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to go into closed session for the discussion of limited personnel matters citing 1015-1 H2 NMSA 1978. Discussions subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation in which the Village of Ruidoso is or may become a participant citing 1015-1 H7 NMSA 1978. And discussion of the purchase, acquisition, and/or disposal of real property and/or water rights by the Village of Ruidoso citing 1015-1H8 NMSA 1978. Any action taken as a result of the closed session will be brought back into open session.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. We'll head into closed session.
Will you send Dr. Jackson the link? Adam, Levi, and Jackie, and Connie?
Counselor Jackson, I'm going to run into my office and send you the closed session link right quick.
Oh, thank you.